million ideas, there's millions to be made in space exploration. But also there's millions to be made in Mars habitation and colonization. There's plenty of things that have to be made, invented, and perfected for people to have some kind of luxury on Mars or the moon. And the more science keeps advancing and technology keeps advancing, a lot of these things are going to be very easy to make, and some of the things can be made right today. I mean, probably 99.9% of the products that are going to be needed on Mars or the moon can be made today, and made by anybody, really. A lot of testing, a lot of research and development, to get it perfected, but a person can probably build, a lot of different things in their own home and perfect it before, even trying to put it on the market or find a buyer for it or sell the patent itself. There's millions to be made, and there's so many things you can think of. Everything you use in your home, from their toothbrush to, sanitary type devices, toilets, and incinerator type devices for garbage. Solar has to be more efficient, but what if there isn't solar in some areas? You got more dark areas. You're going to have to use some kind of other energy sources. Power cells that run 10, 20 years, run themselves without recharging. There's different types of clothing. You got hot weather, you got cold weather. It has to be in a suit, stuff they're going to wear inside the habitat, types of furniture. The habitats themselves have to be lightweight but real strong and airtight, and they can be where they can attach to one another, where they can be multiple habitats, and they make a community of habitats and like dorm rooms, basically. And there has to be, everything you think of. You got to turn carbon dioxide and hydrogen into water and oxygen, so you need one of those types of systems to always produce the oxygen and water for their habitat. You can also make fuel systems for refueling the aircraft and spaceships and stuff, and even the rovers. They can run the hydrogen, and you can make a hydrogen unit with a hydrogen cell and make a rover run on hydrogen. You can build a modified little go-kart in your own backyard and make it run on hydrogen for a test model. There's millions and millions and millions of dollars to be made in this market, because it's a new thing. I mean, it's coming out, it's already there. They're just perfecting the aircraft to get there, and I should say spacecraft, because Elon Musk, Virgin Galactic, and 20 other space-faring companies are actually going to Mars in the next 15 years. I mean, China, Russia, France, Germany, and Spain, and a whole bunch of other countries are already planning on going to Mars and the moon and making habitats. It's just going to be a huge market, because not only for just tourism, but for scientific research. And they're going to be looking for new metals and new types of materials they can use into making, better engines and whatever else. So this is just starting. And the people that get in on it now, and of course there's going to be more advancements, and someone will have something else come out better in the future. But if you get on the bandwagon now and start developing your ideas on whatever you want, anything and everything you can think of that you use in your house, everything from entertainment, TV systems, whatever, to, everything has to be made lightweight, user-friendly, interactive, and then it goes into lighting systems and, my gosh, it just never ends. It's everything you use in your house. It's like everything your house has to have to survive. It's going to be a house on the moon or a house on Mars. It's going to be a house. It's going to be where people are going to be living there for the rest of their lives, or even 5 to 10 years, I'd say, is a max maybe for some people, because by then they want to come back to Earth and, retire here on Earth, or some will just rather retire on Mars. But that's in the future, but still it's going to be there. And who has it gets it. It's like first come, first serve. Well, the first person that designs and builds this stuff and gets it tested and ready to go, it's going to be the multimillionaires. I mean, that's just it. I mean, this stuff isn't going to be sold very cheap, because, it's you're not making millions and millions of different products, but you're making enough that the colony on Mars or the colony on the moon will be able to use, and you can pretty much charge what you want. And, within a reasonable area line there, price range. But, everything has to be easy to use, easy to repair, because you don't have spare parts. You have to have user manuals with everything, of course, so you got to think of that. But the most important things we really use on Earth is electricity, water, and food. So if you come up with a way to make a really efficient greenhouse, a really efficient way to produce water from CO2 and hydrogen, and a really easy way to produce oxygen from CO2, and a real easy way to produce electricity without solar panels or wind, if you can design a power cell that's self-sustaining, and there are plenty of ideas out there. There's people really experimenting with crystal cells, salt batteries, there's different types of things they're coming up with, and someone's going to come up with the right ingredients and make something that doesn't corrode and can last 10 to 20 years and keep providing power, sustainable power that can be used to run lights and everything in a habitat. Construction workers, really are going to have a big hand in developing habitats. I can see where that is going to be a huge bonus for a lot of construction workers, and people that even just want to mess around with that area. They can get into it and start building different things and stuff, because you could build a habitat. It has to be like an RV setting. You got to have everything within that RV. You're cooking, you're going to be living there, you got your toilet, your bed, everything that you can think of that you use in your house has to be designed for being very efficient, provide warmth or cool, comfort, and make sure that person can survive comfortably on the moon or Mars. And eventually it's going to spread, pretty soon. There's talk way back 10 years ago about going to Titan. And eventually it will be Titan in the far future, maybe not that far. Maybe things are just going to, once they start happening, they're going to go really fast. So the people who get in that little market area right now of whatever product they want to bring out, they're going to probably sell it. That's just the way it is. You get something out there and you get a patent on it, and you don't even have to patent it, really. You just get your product out there, and then pretty soon people are going to want to patent it for you, and pay you $1 million or whatever for your whole idea. You can look up poor man patents and do your own poor man patent ideas. So, you can do trademark. You can do all that stuff if you want, but a lot of vendors, they just build it and then sell it, and if there's somebody else out there that wants to get involved, a lot of thing about investors, they get investors and venture capitalists. They want to take over your idea, they want to control the business, and they want to have the say in everything, and that's where a lot of small-time inventors don't want to go that way. They're like, hey, just buy me out and you can do whatever you want with it. Just, I don't want to be second under a person. I want to be the first. So, buy me out for $1 million or $1.5 million or $2 million, and we'll call it good. That's the best way to do it. Just hand them all the paperwork and then the invention and the blueprints and whatever else you got, and just tell them, hey, there you go. Pay me and you can have it. So, yeah, there's millions to be made out there. This is an open area. It's open to anything, everything and anything. I mean, you got, like I said, you got rovers, but what about maybe an electric motorcycle or, different types of different fully enclosed vehicles instead of like a lunar lander or rover where it had just an open, area. People just jump out of the thing like it's a convertible. Well, you might want to have something that can go longer range, and people can take their helmets off, and, it's pressurized. It creates its own oxygen supply, and it, creates its own fuel supply, and it basically can drive forever because it makes its own fuel, and it can, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's out there. It can be done. The technology is there. It's just people got to put it together to make it work and put it on the market. I can see where, like, the whole aspect of having some kind of sanitary small sink, RV type setting for a bathroom with a shower, everything set up to where the water's being made, and they got continuously water, a huge amount of water supply actually just from the air outside being converted into water, and oxygen. So they have an unlimited oxygen supply and unlimited water supply just from the CO2 and hydrogen outside. You can look online. There's plenty of patents. There's plenty of companies that build this kind of stuff for making hydrogen and even oxygen and even water out of both. And, NASA's already got it figured out. But if you build it in a smaller unit where it can be used in a habitat, space hab or moon lab or even on Mars, you're going to have a market. And you make it where it's, efficient. Energy efficient, where it's not using a whole lot of wattage and produce a lot of, water and oxygen. There's a lot to be made. Heating and cooling systems. When a hot day comes, they want air conditioning. When it starts getting cool, they want some kind of heat, so they have to have a very efficient heating system. A very efficient air conditioner. So this stuff, you can pick and choose what your niche is going to be because whatever experience you have, you can just be designing clothes, socks, you can design shoes, and you can design things they'll be wearing in the habitat when they take off their spacesuit. You can be designing anything and everything, including types of rugs, carpet, wallpaper, whatever they want to put in their habitat, there's furniture to be made. It has to all be lightweight so it can be shipped up there. It can't be heavy, but it has to be strong, and it can look good, futuristic or maybe just be simplistic and usable, comfortable. And that's a major thing. Comfortable has to be number one in everything. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It has to be comfortable. If you sit in it for 10 minutes and your back hurts, it's not going to sell. It's got to be comfortable. Something you can sit in for hours and hours, while you're talking back home on the video phone or something. So, there's a huge, huge market out there. I just want to put this on there because I think there's a lot of people out there with really good ideas that are just sitting around kind of going, thinking it's not going to happen for another 20 years, but it's happening in the next couple of years. I mean, we're talking 2020, which is just 2 years away. That's the first mission going to Mars. 2024 is the next mission going. I mean, first they're sending a little, robotic thing and maybe sending up some supplies to build habs and stuff that they think they're going to build. and they're sending up heavy stuff, But if you build a hab that's easy, lightweight, very easy to put together, snaps together, is airtight, or just buckles together, everything that's there has to be just put together real quickly so they can get moved in and start getting set up so they can live. And no one wants to sit there and walk, live in a spacesuit for 2 weeks trying to smell their own urine in their spacesuit while they're trying to build a hab to live in. If it can be built in like a half a day or a couple hours, snap together kind of deal, Lego stuff, where it's airtight and it's sealed and it snaps right in and it's locked in and, the walls are up and the floor is in and, all that stuff is ready to go. And it has nice windows for views. Everything's airtight, safe, secure. And it can take some high winds, have some dirt thrown against it. It can actually stay in one spot. Might have to figure out something for, rebar it to the ground or stakes or something to nail it down to the ground or whatever. But, if it's too late. But either way, you've got something viable that can be sold. It's going to sell. That's the number one thing. I mean, it doesn't matter what a person builds, it'll sell to the right person. But if you build something for off-planet, living on Mars or the moon or in space, and it just really is not out there. I mean, it's like you just can't go to the store and buy this stuff, and you're the only one that has it, it's going to sell. As long as it works. It has to work because they will test it and they will say, yeah, okay, this works, So they just don't buy it on a whim, like we do on Amazon. They'll buy it and they'll test it and they'll buy one and then they'll test it and they'll go through the whole rigorous process of testing it out and see what they like about it. And if it fits everything they like, then yeah, you've got a sale. They might order a bunch of them. So, and your price could be $10,000 a chair, specifically designed for living on Mars. And, that's a pretty good market there. But you can also turn around to the whole market of different furniture you make and sell it to another company. Let them buy it out for $1 million or whatever. I mean, there is a lot to be done. It's an enormous amount of stuff that has to be made. Enormous. I mean, just a huge amount of stuff that has to be made. And it has to all work. And make it comfortable for everybody living there on Mars or the moon or in space. It's really, it seems quite simple, but there's a lot of work to it. I mean, even a person might have an idea for clothing that is just absolutely perfect. It just does everything, It keeps them hot, or it keeps them cold, or, and it's airtight, and they can use it in a spacesuit, and they can use it in their habitat, and it's just all around perfect. And it might not even took them a couple hours to put it together, and then they just put out the plans, and they start cutting it out and sewing it and put it together, and it's done. And they might have it done in a month or two, and some things are that easy, and some things are, going to be a challenge. But that's the part about it, is what makes every idea great, because there's a potential to keep adding on to it over in the future. But as you put it together, the first test model, and then start improving it yourself, then it becomes like your own little baby. It's your own little project. Your idea has become reality. And now it's there, and it can be for sale. And you can make some good money, and you can make $1 million, because they take an idea and they build something, and it might be the simplest thing in the world, and an inventor might have just that one thing that's really, unique, or it might just be something that is an enhancement to something else in the past, but they'll be like, they built something that was better. And then, an investor comes along and sees that, and they're like, they'll buy it, or they'll buy into the company, or they'll buy it 30% or 40% or whatever. But people usually are becoming millionaires over it, because then they say, well, there's a huge market now for this, and you can even turn your product that you're going to put on Mars or the moon into production with another company and make it here and sell it right on Earth. So there's a huge, huge market there. I mean, it's not just there. You can use it here. And many of the things that you could probably come up with might be really, really cool on Earth as well as being used on Mars. But I want to put that out there because there's a lot of people with good ideas. I mean, I talk to people all the time, and being an engineer, I meet other people who just absolutely have some really, really good ideas. And, I help them. I'll be like, I'll throw out my advice for free sometimes. I'll be like, well, they'll ask me, how do I do this? How do I do that? And I'll kind of give them my ideas and what I think what they should do. And yeah. So there's people out there that have already put out some products that, I just gave some advice on, but they're out there. And I've seen them do it. So it can be done. But I think that's the $1 million idea today, because there's a lot to be done. Like I said, it's just so much to cover, so much to do, and so little time. Because everything has to be thought through and everything has to be made. And it takes a lot of people. And the only ones that are going to get on the bandwagon right now are those who just build it right now. I mean, they just got to get it going. Build it. It might take you a year if you got a real complex idea, but some people might get it done in 2 or 3 months. Some people might get their idea done in a week. I mean, it depends on what it is. I mean, if it's a real unique idea, like a new toothbrush or something, they might get it done in a week. But there's a lot to be done, and there's just, it's an enormous, huge market out there. And it's going to be the future. I mean, we are going to be an off-world species as well. We're going to be living in space. We're going to be living on the moon. We're going to be living on Mars. And there's no stopping it, because there's 20 other countries already planning this. I mean, not just 20 other countries, but you're talking about 30 other private companies that are going with the idea of building. They're putting billions of dollars into space exploration and going to live on the moon and Mars. I mean, it's just an enormous jump start in technology, and they're just going for it. They're like, we've got the technology, now let's go do it. And they all want a part of it, because there's money to be made on Mars, and there's money to be made on the moon, and there's also money to be done in space and with the research in space, like the space station does. They make a lot of money in this research and stuff that they do. Now, we're talking international. But each place wants to have their own little claim on Mars and their claim on the moon. Because if hydrogen-3 can be found on the moon, or helium-3 can be found on the moon, and plenty of, if someone finds that one little gold mine on the moon or on Mars, the first person that gets to it gets it. It's kind of one of those things. And there's billions to be made in those. Different finds, there could be different rare elements. But, like I said, it's just not science, it's just not governments, it's just not competition of getting there first, but there's people who actually want to go and live there as an adventure. And the list is already over 3 million people, that signed up for this stuff. We're talking Mars 1. How many people signed up for it? To go one way to Mars and live there for the rest of their life. So there's an enormous amount of people that signed up for it. For that one, for that specific program, they had to have requirements they had to, fulfill. But you're talking Elon Musk. He's like, anybody can go, disabled or not. They can go if they got, if they got the cash, they can go. It's kind of one of those things. And it's not just him, it's Virgin Galactic's the same way. They're planning for it. And tourism, exploration, and colonization. So I hope you decide to do something with your idea. And I know many people got an idea, at least something that they know they could turn into money. And all you got to do is build it and put it out there. And write to all of them. Just make a list of all these different agencies and companies and, even the U.S. government and even other governments. Just tell them what you got, and you're willing to sell it to them. And, if you started to going out and say, well, I have this idea, but I didn't build it, they won't talk to you until you build it and test it yourself. You've got to have something they can look at, that they can feel, that they can test. You can't just say you have an idea and you want $1 million. You have to actually build it, test it, use it, and get it on the market. And you got to have samples, prototypes out there so they can actually see what you have. And go to those, there's all kinds of these little fair things you can go to, and there's, you can go right to their office. Walk right in their office and say, or, call them up and say, I've got a product here you might be interested in, and set up an appointment. And you have to be sometimes pretty persistent about trying to get an appointment with them, but, being too pushy, there's a limit. If they say no, then go to a different one. I mean, they're not the only ones in town. You got 30 private companies, and you got 155 countries you can go to sell it to, So, and governments do buy some products. If you got a good product and it might work with their space agency program, you could probably sell it to any government you want. So, yeah, it's a huge market. It's the future. I hope people are really going to think about it and do something with their idea, because there's so many good ideas that are lost because nobody does anything about it. It's a shame. And some people are afraid to put money into their idea because it might be a failure. No idea is a failure, because once you start getting into it, you find out what's flawed, and then you fix that. And it's like one thing, leads to another, where eventually, it may only be 5 things that are, simply to fix, and then it works perfect, and then you've got a real viable product to sell. It depends on how complex it is. If you're going into something that you have no idea what you're getting into, like electronics, and you have no idea about electronics, then, yeah, you might want to pass that idea on to somebody else and say, if you ever become a millionaire, kind of give me a few bucks out of it or something. Because if it's something that you cannot do yourself, or with a group of friends or something, if you get a group together, which is great because you get more minds and more experience and more know-how in different areas, then you've got something that all 4 or 5 people can put together and sell as a group, which is great. So, and you have to get it on paper. Everybody gets a third, or everybody gets a half, or whatever. If you got 2 people, they each get 50-50 or whatever. Because if it's not on paper and it's only a verbal agreement, which a verbal agreement is binding, but they can say whatever they want. Because if they take the idea and run off, then you have nothing to show for it, and you can't sue them for it. So you got to have something. Everything should be on paper. Everything should be recorded on video. Keep track. Have good logs if you got a group. And and it should be like a non-disclosure agreement between all of you. Nothing leaves the garage where you're building the stuff. People don't go out there and talk about it with the bar. They don't go talk about it with their girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever. What's in the garage stays in the garage until you get it done and you sell it and make your money. You just got to have something like that. But otherwise, you can sue them. You can have that in agreement. If they spill the beans, they get sued. So, for whatever profit losses you might have. But anyways, I wish you the best of luck. I want to get this out there because I see this is really, really super important to get people energized about this because there's so many people out there with so many good ideas that can make a lot of money, and they actually have some really good ideas that could actually advance us into the future with just simple products, but really things that people didn't even think about. Building. I mean, you can't go to the store and buy some stuff, but this is stuff that you're going to be building for the idea of using on Mars or the moon, in habitats. And the moon might want to have something that's a little bit heavier, but not too heavy, but because you got to send it up there, and it has to be within a weight limit, because moon doesn't have the gravity as Mars. But, whatever, if it's furniture, you might want to make sure that it might just be able to bolt it down to the floor in the habitat would be better. Or a chair that slides back and forth on the floor through a mechanism or something that's got to attach it to the floor, so it can move, but it's attached to the floor. Because otherwise it's just, easy to knock over. There's just so much to cover. I mean, everything, just look around your house. Just look around your house, in your closets, in your garage. Everything you can see there that we use on Earth has to be made for the reason to be used on Mars or the Moon, and even Titan. I mean, we got to talk about, that in the future, but what you make now might just be used on Titan or other places. So, it's a huge market, and people that get lazy and don't want to do anything with their idea are going to lose out. The people who want to get excited about being part of that future and do something with their lives and do something with their idea, because that's the whole point is, it makes you feel good about yourself. You feel good that you did something for the future. The grandchildren and your great-great-grandchildren are going to see something that you built. It'll be like, hey, my grandfather built that. It might just be a toothbrush, but he built that. Or it could be an oxygen producing machine. He built that, whatever. But the thing is it's really cool. I mean, you got to think about it as, it's going to be the first, your name is going to be on it, or you might sell it and say, I invented that, So either way, you've got the benefit, of that great feeling that you did something for the future. And so many people have so many great ideas. I just can't express how much I want those people to just get out there and do something with that idea and get it put into a product that can actually be used on the moon or on Mars. And even on Earth. You could, if it's a really good product, it's viable to be used. I mean, if everybody can use it on Earth, we might see it on Amazon, for sale, or every store will have it, because that's what it's about, We're creative people. We're creative beings. We're feeling beings, and we want to be comfortable. We want good stuff that, lasts a long time, and, we're kind of getting mad at the Chinese because they're making junk that lasts about 2 weeks, and then you don't want to buy it anymore, so you just throw it away and say, I'll live without it. Because, it's just not worth it buying junk. That doesn't work. It's a waste of money. So if you make a product, make sure it's not throwaway, because they can't just throw it away on Mars or Moon. It has to last 10 to 20 years or more. You have to make a product that lasts. When you make it for the Moon or Mars, they can't be shipping up 50 VCRs and 50 TVs and, to keep reselling to people, because there ain't no market for that, because there's no room on the ships. They have to send only so much stuff up. And so it has to last 10 to 20 years at least, a lifetime. Clothing has to be really strong and durable. It has to last a long time. It can't just be falling apart. Everything you make has to be really, really strong and last. So think about that. That's why I mentioned power cells, because power cells, you can't send up a whole rocket full of batteries to the Mars, or the Moon, because it's just not worth it. I mean, send up a couple, what, $10,000 in batteries. It costs you $30 million to send up a rocket. It doesn't make sense. You know, you can't do that. You have to have something that lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts. So it's a power cell that lasts 10 to 20, 30 years. And then they only have to replace it every 10, 20 years, you know. So, and they might just by then be building it right on Mars in a factory there or whatever. But they have to make, you know, tools, whatever you make. I mean, it has to be really strong and last a long time. It has to last a very long time, including furniture, whatever you make. It can't be throwaway stuff. Nothing can be throwaway up there. It can't be just discarded and thrown in a dump up there. It has to be working and last a long time. But that's my advice. I'm just giving that out there because that's what they're going to be looking for. They can't be, you know, they're not going to buy crap. They won't buy crap, and they're going to pay $10,000 for a piece of, you know, a bedroom set when it's, you know, falling apart and crap. So you got to make it so it lasts a long time. I wish you all good luck. I want to see those ideas out there. I really do. And there's a lot of money to be made. I mean, a lot of money to be made.
There are many YouTube videos and other videos on other sites, including written information on how to patent, copyright, and trademark your products. Some are not always accurate, so watch a bunch of videos, a bunch of videos on a lot of other sites, and then read a lot of material before you do it. Don't make mistakes. It can cost you money. And really, if you really just want to hire a patent attorney, you can do that too, and do a patent search and hire all that out, you know. So, but there's ways you can do it yourself, and that's up to you. You know, you can do the poor man's patent. You can read about the poor man's patent online, and it tells you ideas how to do that too, which is cheap. There's everything pretty much what you need to know for, you know, building, designing, and selling your product can be found online. You know, they'll tell you how to build your own little lab in your house so you can have electronics lab and, you know, scientific lab or whatever you want, and do it pretty cheaply where you can have a workplace where you want to build your product. You know, you can set it up in your garage or whatever, in a basement. And just you always use safety, you know, keep yourself safe, wear safety goggles. Well,